Hello, 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 and thank you once again for tuning in to Riding the Wave. You are listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T once again. For all you people listening to me out there, I can be reached at rtw.podcast. That's my Facebook. Glenn_town is my Twitter, and ridingthewave.podcast@gmail.com is my Gmail. This show is featured on iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, and Spotify. More venues to come. Website coming soon. So how's everybody doing out there? Hopefully you guys are getting to where you're going safely, being productive, and just staying in your own lanes. So today's topic, just jumping right into it, is knowledge. We know this is a very deep topic. This is something that people tend to talk about quite a bit. It's a never-ending topic, to be honest with you, and there's so many layers to that onion that I just thought I would offer you some because it gives you a little insight as far as what are we doing here? What are we supposed to be doing? So again, once again, this is Glenn T. You are riding the wave, and we're getting right into it. Knowledge. What about knowledge? What about knowledge? Like, knowledge is just knowing, right? So why is attaining knowledge so important? Real honest questions. We've built lifestyles on these things. Schools of thought, jurisprudence. I mean, all types of information comes from that root word knowledge. Why is attaining knowledge so important? And I'm certainly not going to be able to get into this in completion just in one episode, obviously, because this is a very important topic. I mean, this separates us from a lot of things. People say ignorance is bliss, but what is bliss truly? Those moments of joy, not knowing anything, or pretending not knowing anything, or actually having that knowledge and happiness. So we can get right into it. Knowledge. Attaining knowledge is important. I'm just going to throw one out there. I like to read books and things like that. I like to be around people who educate their minds. Doesn't matter whether it's formal or informal, but all the same, I just like to hear from people, like to hear what people got to say, what they think. And I think for me, the attainment of knowledge basically is important because, one, first and foremost, it gives you guidance. I mean, you have to admit, without knowledge, there will be no guidance. We'll be living like the beasts. So it gives you guidance. I mean, without us reading, will we even know what Scripture is about? And for those people that are not that into religion and things like that, which is understandable. Not everybody's into everything. But for those people that are not actually into religion, what kind of knowledge is important to you? What gives you the guidance? I mean, it could be the governmental laws, society's laws, laws of the land. How would you know these things unless you read up on them? I mean, you can't go outside and just take a steak off the shelf in a supermarket and put it in a bag yourself and walk out. There's some type of payment that you have to commit to. How would you know this? This is an attainment of knowledge. So these little things we overlook, but yet they carry us. So it certainly gives you guidance. I mean, those people that are just spiritual, imagine life without Scripture. Without the words of God. Imagine life without that. Right? So, I mean, we can just see the significance in, where the guidance will come in. How will we know what to eat? How we know how to pray? How to give charity? When to fast? What to read? I mean, how would we know any of these things if we didn't pursue knowledge? So I would certainly say giving you guidance will be a very important factor as to why the attainment of knowledge is important. Give yourself some rules, your set of parameters. I mean, the only way to know them, there's learned people out there, they left some stuff behind for us. It's called books. We should definitely get into them a little bit more. They're like a big treasure chest, just waiting to be spent. So that's just one quick way of, giving the attainment of knowledge some credibility there. Also, what else can it do for you? Any questions, comments, suggestions? You guys can reach out to me. I love to do, podcasts with other people too as well. So that's just for your knowledge. Another way that attaining knowledge becomes important to one person. Getting a little creative here, right? But it raises you in ranks. What do you think? Is the learned man the same as the fool? Is one who knows equal to one who does not? Is the professor equal to the student? So we can clearly understand how it raises you in ranks. When you have knowledge, when you know stuff, people look at you as a resource automatically. A lot of people don't want to do the legwork. You know, that's why the knowledgeable is a small crowd, and the people that follow the knowledgeable are much larger than that crowd. Scholars, learned figures, things of that, they do the necessary legwork in order to get this information. So it raises them in ranks automatically. Counselors, judges, right? People that can call shots. How are they able to call these shots? Because they did the necessary homework in order to understand that information. Hey, if you want to get rich, are you going to trial and error that? Are you going to lose $1 million trying to gain 3 million? No, you're going to go to a financial advisor, right? Somebody that's done all the legwork when it comes to how the money game is played. You go to them, you sit with them for a few minutes, you'll invest, you'll pay them their small fee, and guess what? You'll see those 3 million more than likely, right? Now your 1 million is an investment as opposed to a gamble. And that's just because of the attainment of knowledge. Somebody took their time to get that knowledge, and it pays off, right? It raised him in ranks now because you have to come to him just to get that knowledge that you could attain yourself. But when that person attained it, it actually raised them in ranks. You know, priests and preachers and imams and people and scholars and sheikhs. You know, all of these people took the time to attain knowledge, and then, you know, the public seeks the knowledge from them. So their ranks have been raised, whether you look at it in a spiritual sense or whether you look at it in a sense, a worldly sense. I mean, worldly, we'll go to them because they know more than us, plain and simple. Spiritually, God has provided that space for them, for people to come to him, right? Or her, or whoever the learned person is. So either way, it actually raises you in ranks. You know, you have kings of the land that goes to their scholars and to their learned people. They're better than kings. If you can rule a whole nation and still have to ask a question, then you're not in the greatest position you can possibly be in. So obviously, when you attain knowledge, when you seek knowledge, it raises you in ranks. It is something that requires discipline. It's something that requires your time, plenty of sacrifice, but is well worth it. You know, just imagine. That is one of the only things that has intrinsic value and is just laying out there free of charge. You can easily attain information all day long, every day. Knowledge is infinite. So we know as far as knowledge, some reason to attain knowledge, one, it gives you that guidance. It lets you know the difference between right and wrong. It allows you to point it out. It allows you to see things that a person of ignorance cannot see. It gives you that wisdom. Also, gives you that guidance, and it gives you that raise in society, right? It allows you to become a higher standard in society to other people. It raises you in ranks. People look up to you just because you know more. There's a lot of value in knowing things. Hey, one of the best reasons why attaining knowledge is important, basically, it's the truest source of happiness. How many people agree with me on that one? They say ignorance is bliss, but I beg to differ. I think knowing is bliss. Have you ever been left out in the dark? Is that a blissful moment? But you're certainly ignorant to something, aren't you? People have you thinking that ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is foolhardy. It allows you to commit to actions that has no basis. It allows you to do things that aren't reputable and can be ultimately embarrassing and a waste of time. When you know you have that guidance, you can keep yourself held to account. You can provide some level of reserve for yourself. But let's just get right into it. The truest source of happiness is knowledge, honestly. Knowledge plus works. Now imagine, let's go into the spiritual realm again. Imagine if you know right? You're practicing your beliefs and you know why. Is that not a reason to be completely happy? I know why I'm doing that. I know why I pray. I know why I fast. I know why I make a trip to another side of the world. I know why. And then when you do it, how much more happy and fulfilled can you be, right? You know it, you do it. That is complete happiness. Nobody could take that from you. You can lose everything in a fire or in a shipwreck, but you can't lose that knowledge. You can start an empire all over again with the things that you know. Now imagine you're in a situation where you're in a glorious situation, right? You have everything that you want in life and then God takes it all from you. Do you think you're going to be happy? No, right? But if you have all of the knowledge and all of that wisdom because you've been applying knowledge throughout all of this life, you see the real signs in what God has given here, and you see the real reason why people do the things that they do. That is something that people can't take away from you. Nobody can take that away from you. Real knowledge sticks. It lasts forever, and you can pass it on. You can give it to other people and get reward for that too. How fulfilling it is to offer somebody some information and they actually follow through on it and come back to you and say, hey, that worked. Something simple. You know, put your baked macaroni on 425, not 400. Oh, wow, great, thank you. It tastes even better. Right? Something simple like that. Or something like, hey, read this book. It's going to change your life. So if a person doesn't realize that attaining knowledge is one of the truest sources of happiness, I mean, you may be barking up the wrong tree, or you may just hold value to something that doesn't really matter. But this, knowledge is beyond anything that you can touch. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is Glenn T. You are listening to Riding the Wave, and today we're just talking about knowledge. Knowledge is a very, very important topic. And it's something that you can talk about on and on and on, and you can never really get into it. So this is why I'm just giving you a couple of aspects today, and I'm sure I may be revisiting this topic on knowledge, just to keep you guys abreast of what you should be doing, or at least in my opinion. And again, these are my perceptions, my opinions. These realities are my own. My mission, again, is only to change one mind a day in a positive way. So here we are. If I can do that, wonderful. If not, back to the drawing board. And I love you guys enough that I will always be at the drawing board, whether it works or not. So basically, just getting right back into it, knowledge, the attainment of knowledge, it's important. It raises you in ranks. It makes you better. A person who worships is not as good as a person who attains knowledge. And worship is a great thing, right? To worship and, to do acts of goodness. But just imagine, it'd be more of a detriment to society to lose a scholar than it would be to lose a priest. To lose somebody, a person of worship, a person who's just known for their worship versus a person who knows and attains knowledge every day of their life, it'll be more of a detriment to society to lose that scholar. You leave a gap. So these are the things that, these are things that we need to understand because, knowledge is incumbent upon all of us to seek. Let's not be shy. Let's not be afraid of it. Books don't bite. Being inquisitive is always good. More questions produces more answers. So being that we're on the topic of knowledge, I mean, what knowledge do you feel you should seek? We have all types of knowledge at our fingertips. I mean, what's relevant to you? Just a quick gauge when it comes to which knowledge, what knowledge should you seek? What should you pursue? Pursue something that's beneficial for you. Just take a look at your day. How do you live your life? I mean, do you have any neighbors? Do you have any, do you live near anybody? Why don't you learn how to be a better neighbor then? Do you get hungry? Do you eat food? Why don't you figure out the best things to eat? Why don't you figure out, the nature of hungriness? I mean, what is hunger? I mean, there's so many questions to ask. I mean, there's so much stuff that we can put our minds to. A lot of times, theology is a topic that people are afraid to touch. But I'm sure a lot of people that listen to my show believe in God some way, somehow. Right? So if that's the case, test your knowledge. If you're a Christian, read up on other religions. If you're a Muslim, read up on other religions. If you're a Buddhist, read up on other religions. If you're a Jew, read up on other religions. Test what you know. Put it to a test because, I mean, this is the only shot that you get. This is the only time where your knowledge counts. Your knowledge is not going to do anything for you when you die. That's when the actions become the guide, right? Knowledge first, actions second. You know, we attain all the knowledge now, we apply it, and then our actions speak for us later on. I mean, are you a parent? Then start pursuing knowledge on children, you know, the mental behavior of children and the things that, you know, that you should, how you should interact with children and things like that. What are their interests and what are, you know, where should their mind be developing at what stage? There's a lot of things you can actually look into. You don't necessarily have to just take knowledge as a broad sweep, because usually when you do, guess what happens? You fall back from it completely. Knowledge looks too big to tackle, so you just go ahead with entertainment and otherwise. Specialize in something. Take a portion of your day every day to learn something. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, honestly. I mean, again, this is my perception. These are my opinions. So what else do you feel is beneficial for you? Right? Those people who have little hobbies, like podcasting, right? You're a podcaster. Read up on podcasting. Read up what makes you a better podcaster. I mean, we have time to do that. Or the topics that you present. Do you take any time to read about what you're about to tell people? Or are you just winging it? Stay away from non-beneficial information. You know, only because it doesn't seem harmful doesn't make it beneficial. You know, I don't want to know how many red gumballs is in the gumball machine in the supermarket. It's just a waste of time. You know, how many dots on the popcorn ceiling. Your guess is as good as mine, because I'll always guess. I'm not going to waste my time looking at that. So we don't want to pursue things that are not beneficial either. You know, because knowledge, again, is at our fingertips and we can go in any direction. What directly pertains to your life? That's a good gauge on where to start. You're worried about your health? Then start reading things that could affect your health or how to maintain your health going forward. Is it diets? Is it exercise? Is it mental health? I mean, these are things that you should be reading about. Spirituality, you guys are into spirituality, read about different religions. You guys are into food, you like to eat a lot. It gets boring eating hamburgers and french fries every day, right? So there's plenty of beneficial information that you can attain. It's at your fingertips, and there's plenty of non-beneficial information as well. So just be mindful and be careful of what you actually pursuing, because at the end of the day, we are as good as what we know. And for those people who like to seek a lot of information, do yourself a favor and become useful by passing that information on. Two of the worst characters are the people that don't seek knowledge and the people that withhold knowledge that have it. You don't want to get caught in any of those crosshairs. Ignorance is not bliss, and being selfish with what God has freely given you is just as bad. Thank you again for riding the wave. You have been listening to the Urban Surfer Glenn T. Please, everybody, just get where you're going safely. Stay smooth, and just think twice before you act. You guys have been great. Stay safe, and make sure you remain productive. Thank you again for listening to Riding the Wave.